All right, folks, welcome back. It is day 20 with WaniKani. 皆さん、おかえりなさい。今日は20日目です。Okay, so yesterday was the big day, right? We had a level up, level 3, and we basically went through all the lessons, see what it's like to hit an upper limit, so then we can, like, try to dial it back or whatnot. It was the first opportunity in which I could foresee like a upper limit issue. And I mean, sure enough, I did encounter one or two input mistakes, right? Or output mistakes. I guess that's what you call. I would refer to it, output mistakes. Not too many though, especially when we end up reviewing, right? The lessons, there were lesson mistakes, but not necessarily review mistakes. Very few review mistakes. Now we have all the reviews. Let's see, we go through them. We might not do these because probably going to be fairly more time efficient. I don't see myself hitting maybe the 8 or 9 p.m. mark. Let's go over these recent mistakes. We'll use the recent mistakes as a reminder, as opposed to, I'll add whatever comes to mind as well. So let's do that first. That'll be our tentative beginning routine. We'll develop this out as we go. Let's take a look at this. And I don't have my tablet drivers on. Moment. Okay. So, take a look. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's the stuff from yesterday. All right. So, in terms of the mistakes, right? This, it looks like they record mistakes from the review section. Oh, interesting. You can redo the lessons. Maybe we should just redo the lessons as well. Okay, so let's do our recall of the mistakes first. So we have... Right, so fire plus mountain, right? You have volcano. And since these two are kanjis, they typically use the onyomi read. So kazan, there's a rendaku on sun. So kazan. I typed zen instead of zan yesterday. Oops. And hand needs to warm up. Okay, and for Jugatsu, I typed Jugatsu as opposed to Jugatsu. Right. So, talking about October, the 10th moon of the year. Right. And this one was confusing right and left, which I do without speaking Japanese or reading Japanese. Oh, left, right. Sa. So read for this particular entry. And then I did not read the ts. I read a ka. So I typed mu tsu instead of mu wait. Not mu. This is yo. Yo. I typed yotsu as opposed to yatsu. Right. Which in this case, I guess we could write yachts. Oh, yatsu. And of course, a proverbial sword. This one was... how did I make the error? Chikara... Oh, I probably typed katana. Katana as opposed to chikara because of the sword thing. Which is, this is strength or power or ability. Right. Right. Chikara. Power. Okay. So that's our review for that portion. We can redo the lessons. See if I notice anything else. Add. Right. Fire mountain. Right. Volcano. Right. Kazan.
Kazan.
Right. Dendaku. Okay. Fine. Yep, 10月. And then, obviously, I immediately thought, oh, yeah, right, Jewel guts. Okay. And left-handed, right, saws in the left hand, doing construction. Right. Narwhal doing construction. And 8 what? 8 yachts, right? Richie Rich. Yatsu. And we have power, strength or ability, right? Yeah, chikara. Squeeze them cheeks, right? For power. Okay. And I don't think we have to do the quiz. So let's go into our reviews. 111. Let's see how much time this takes. Right. And see the big influx of novel information, like how that works. There are quite a few radicals that I'm not familiar with, as in I didn't ascribe any meaning to them. So there are novel things in this situation. Are there new vocabulary? There aren't new vocabulary though. So there are not those things I need to remember, right? This is the drying rack. I don't know if they take into consideration capitalization or not. Oh, wait, that's life. That's life. My bad. I'm gonna try to be a little quicker these days. Which one do they want with this? What was this? Ski. 2 keys. Oops. Oh, whoops. What was Migi? Oh, mean geese or meat geese. Sheep. Oh, there, gecko. Konbawa. Oh. I wonder if you can write. Okay. It's important read. Oops. Whatever you can write that for the other meaning too. I'll write minute this time. Maybe we can write this? That's fine. Okay. Okay. Oops. I'll talk about what's different this time in a bit. Oops. Oops. Okay. Oh, okay. Um. Oops. Mm. Oh, crap. That stopped. um. Not stop. Wait, actually, I should have looked at that. I'll look at that again. It'll stop on it. For lack of a better word, it'll stop on it. Just worry about it later. When it comes up again. Oops. Wait. That's fine. Oh, wait. Did I write the wrong... Wait. Oh, right. I forgot the Rendaku. Right. I forgot the Rendaku. What's the mnemonic for this? Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's think about this one first. Oh, wait, that's the meaning, so... Oh, I know what it is. Fine. Make sure I don't typo. Ugh. Wait. Wait. Yeah, the... I'll write this down. Let's write this one down. So... Okay. The mnemonic had something to do with evening toe and firefoot. going outside to cool it. But I don't know, let's guess. Oh, it's the one that I skipped yesterday, and it's still presenting to be a problem. Because I skipped the reading yesterday, and then I quickly glanced at this after skipping the reading yesterday. It was that one. I was thinking it could be the one that I didn't read at all. Alright, that's fine. I'm gonna just reinforce it. Okay. Okay. What did they use for this? Oh, right. Oops. What was the rationale for this? Just very common read. Okay. I didn't get an opportunity yesterday to read about Guy Fawkes though, even though it suggested it. I was gonna read an article about Guy Fawkes. I think that's how you say his the person's last name. The name is familiar, and I know a little bit like cursory stuff, but I didn't chance to read anything about it to reinforce that. I had like Nietzsche moment. I noticed something about the reverse order. Sorry. Maybe I'll talk about that later as well. Have you ever seen V Print? That's how I remember Guy Fawkes yourself. Oh, Guy Fawkes is related to V for Vendetta. Oh, that. Oh, okay. Yeah, that does it. That's all I need. That's all I need to know. That's good enough. I didn't realize that's. Hold up. Now I have. Oh, I didn't even. Oh, I didn't even make that connection. Wow. Well, that's one way to remember it. That's awesome. That's a solid, very memorable, visually apt reminder. Thanks. That's pretty sweet, actually. Dude, that guy's face, though. can't unsee that. Oh, that's what they mean by they wear the Guy Fawkes mask everywhere. Oh, that makes so much sense now. Like in the mnemonic itself, right? Ko wrote something about, oh yeah, you know, people wear this mask all the time. I'm like, what? I didn't quite make that connection. The more you know. The more you know. What's the thing for this? So they're both separate, right? You treat them as... There's something weird about this one. I'm gonna write this down because I'm gonna take a gamble on this. No. Okay. Just curious. Oh, right. They used he. Right. Okay. Curious. You really like this movie too, which makes it stick. I quite like the movie as well, the movie thing dealing with that. Now it's like, was that a... Sorry, I'm thinking about something else at the moment. Oops. They have a is? I don't know what they wanted. Oh, this one? I think that's a semantics thing. I don't necessarily think it's I wanted to write this parentheses or just this. This parenthetic. Is as in the generative is. There's something there. But they use one. I don't have to remember that. I wasn't really paying attention to these as much. Oops. Oops. This might work. I could add it to the like the synonyms. I don't quite want to at the moment. I'm refraining as much as I can from using the synonyms. The only synonym that I've added so far was wait, did I add a synonym? No, I haven't added a synonym on WaniKani. On Hanzahira, I added not okay for not okay. Oh wait. No, yeah. And then not the only synonym. I added expanding all the contractions. So like can't do to cannot do, because there is a chance I will write cannot do as opposed to can't do. Writing, I treat writing a little bit differently from reading, from speaking. Okay, what was this? Wait, that's pneumatic was like something dealing with machine and dying. Did they take above the table too? No, they don't. Curious. I wonder how you say above. How do you say above the table? We won't chance it. It's not not worth right now. Oops. Gotta make sure I don't mix Hanze Hero and WaniKani up for some of these. Active pauses. Make sure not to go too quickly. Huh. Okay. Hmm. Oops. I was thinking of the read there. Or the mnemonic for the read. I don't think there is one. You just know the rule and use what reads you have. So it was a pass. I think I typed this yesterday and it was okay. Oops. Dendaku. Right. Oops. This one was a bit of a stretch. I think this one was one of the exceptions. Yes. Although it wasn't written as an exception. So there might be something behind it. I didn't have time yesterday to look up most of these things out of curiosity. We'll do in the future though. I kind of like this here where you write katakana, but you're reading katakana, but you're writing hiragana. It's kind of an interesting sensation. I kind of like it. Oops. So, what was I thinking about this? Yeah. So I might not have been paying attention here to write this. So obviously it's the ones that I have not used. So outside the guy read is something new. Sunrise is something new, and obedient is something new. So I will have to pause and dedicate longer time. Oh, or I can use the SRS to primarily focus on that when it comes up again. It'll probably come up more frequently, so that's kind of trusting the system a bit. It's kind of reinforced both kana scripts, which is nice. It also re-emphasizes that hiragana is not only used in Japanese, but also as phonetic representation of anything Japanese, kanji or katakana. Yeah. I don't type in Duolingo, so this is kind of refreshing. It was not my expectation to use this as a form of typing input. However, I was going to do LLM practice as a form of typing input and then using speech recognition as a form of speech use. So this is kind of nice that I'm typing again. In terms of English, I've also know that I make very common typographical errors when I'm thinking past what I'm trying to write. So it does quite happen sometimes. And as a personal background, not that I know for sure, but I have problems with sustained attention quite a bit. And I don't think it's a problem as in a negative thing. Oftentimes when I have a selective thought, it can create and lead to different thoughts and different typos. Ultimately, how I navigate this type of negative feeling to make it not a negative feeling is I typically focus and evaluate on consistency, right? How consistent am I across the board as opposed to from case to case? It can be very demotivating if someone who blames who succumbs to their lack of attention span across a short amount of time because they don't typically do tasks for a very long time. That can be very daunting, and I can empathize with the nature of youth today where they are very hyperstimulated and are prone to not having longer sustained attention. And I don't believe this. I think take this for a grain of salt. I don't necessarily believe that shortened attention span is something that is a predisposition. I think there is a lot to say about the current nature of tools. Actually, WaniKani is one of them. Tools in which they emphasize on efficiency and short attention spans, right? A predisposition is one thing. Being under practice and not normalizing behavior to longer attention methods and inputs is a different story entirely. So when it comes to learning, right, oftentimes when you hear people talk about things, they're going to likely talk about a long format form of engagement and a short format form of engagement. SRS being the short format, and long format would be like comprehensible input with graded readers or something, right? Or watching anime or reading manga. That's a long format manner. That whole like context versus repetition, that kind of thing. Context is long format usually, the longer format. And individuals who only focuses on one or the other may want to use that as a form of self-awareness of understanding where your normalized attention span is. I think it's very different from someone who convinced themselves that they can't. This is a thing that I find very, very noticeable when it comes to this type of thing. I personally think you're doing great on that front. You did manage to sit through a 5 hour without interruption after our digression yesterday, so I'm your mind roams, but you get back on track quickly. Yeah, and hear me out. I have to iterate this again. This is not my preferred form of so if I had to say anything, this is largely not my preferred form of elevated learning. However, as a kid, I used to really, really like this. And the nice thing about being able to retain my attention for 5 hours, like the WaniKani session, is because I view WaniKani as one thing. So I'm building this profile of ko, right? So these words are not separated from each other, like in a tension manner. So all of it culminates into an experience. It's very different from someone who sees these as isolated things. And unfortunately, or fortunately for some people, when they think of it from a case-to-case basis, every incorrect, like every mistake and every correct response is viewed as equivalent in impact. So if you get 100 things, right, 100 things correct, each one of them will feel like a division of the 100 things. So each particular one will feel like it adds up to something, but it can't be, the perspective is not cumulative. It's more like, oh, I got one wrong, and that suddenly becomes the reflection of your entire experience, right? And you can see that in a lot of things other than language learning. Like, for example, when someone uses a product for 4 years and suddenly they encountered one error, and then officially the product is unusable because of that one error. Which, that was a story from yesterday, where this person continues on their rampage about projecting how negative and cynical that person can become by presuming that people are people and they should be perfectionists and whatnot. So this person managed to find, after getting to level 13, that there were 12 errors, and they were so impatient that they think that waiting for 2 months to correct an error that is in this program, it's a typographical error, by the way, would seemingly sour every value of the product, and then go on and provide cognitive dissonance by gaslighting other people, or attempting to gaslight other people that they are the victim of apathy, and consistently stating that they care about the well-being of other people while talking to them as though they're not as important as themselves. That's the kind of thing that I feel go hand in hand. And for now, like, I'm actively telling myself, oh, okay, I got this wrong, I'll check it later. I trust that the system will give me this because it's a review, so they mark all the recent mistakes so I can track it. I'll go over it. So the idea is it keeps you going. You try to stay focused, and being marred by this stuff. I'm starting to retract my statement about using sound cues, because I've realized that it can be a double edge. So the thing about Duolingo is they're very strongly sound cue. They have like very strong sound cue repetition. So whenever you get something wrong, it like startles me. Like, and I can totally understand potentially their preference on not using sound cues now that I think about it, right? Because of the high volume of review, you're going to hear that sound cue very, very rapidly. And that can induce like a pattern habit formation that they, the designers of WaniKani were like, maybe not. Although the alternative is obviously offering the option of it. You can turn on and off sound cues, which is what Duolingo offers, right? It's interesting. That's what came across my mind right now, where you hit enter and you only have a visual stimulus, right? Like, oh, okay, I got it right, I got it wrong. Red still sucks to see. Green is still not a big coincidence, one of my favorite colors, right? Anyways, I'm having let's refocus for a minute. We're almost to the end, so I'll have my thoughts about what I'm doing that's different right now. What is the so do I treat this as I do, right? So then I would use like no. I can see where this person's coming from, but there are definitely ways to work around that. My solution was simple. I installed a script that allowed me to correct typos. That person made a I already said that. That person, the thing about, I'm not saying that that person doesn't have, so that person is correct. Their emotional intelligence is non-existent when they're talking to other people. So they already mentioned that, oh, it's not a big problem to them because they just want to help other people correct typos. But the thing is, there's a difference between righteous indignation and it's not bothering you being philanthropist, like being philanthropic, right, about your actions versus talking down to everyone and condescending everyone and denying everyone's perceptions. Right? Like that person said, oh yeah, this isn't a problem for me. I already download scripts and avoid all this stuff. You know, it doesn't take it takes a few minutes for me to correct this, so it should take a few minutes for the developers to correct this. So I'm doing the benefit of the doubt. I'm the better person. I am the victim of apathy and neglect. I am doing people a favor, right? It's not a problem to me. They stated, like, you know, I've corrected this, like I use scripts and stuff. You get over this. It only takes me a couple minutes. I'm really good with this, but it only takes me a couple minutes to find the typo. It should only take a couple minutes to answer your emails and then correct the typo for the developer. And that is projecting things, right? So if it's easy for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for the person you're addressing. The problem with this is the person believes they are in the right because they are doing an act of kindness that a large majority of the community did not say they asked for this or they were grateful for this, but they should be grateful for this because that person is doing an act of kindness, right? And that is righteous indignation. It's placing yourself on a pedestal as opposed to being philanthropic. Philanthropic is usually an act of kindness in which you don't expect a return. So instead, this person chose to voice their, their discourse, which placing it on the forum is a great way for optics. You know, you get other people involved in order to correct it. However, that person went out and about and exercised a victim and aggressor perspective. Like they are the one that's being wronged and it's unprofessional and assuming what everyone else thinks as well as telling what the developers are, right? They used ad hominem arguments against the developer based on their emotional attachment to being heard and whatnot. And that is what makes something that, yes, that person is correct. They also don't have a problem with it, and yet they have a problem with it. But the problem is not regarding the typo. The problem was regarding someone not paying attention to them. On a side note, I personally appreciate that WaniKani is very open to community scripts. I don't use many myself, but as a user, you can choose to totally ignore or customize your experience. Yes, voice matters, right? Now, this was another forum topic, by the way. The whole, like, another person, level 30 plus, they said like, you know what, WaniKani has been really disappointing lately. As in, since WaniKani is a subscription, right? It's based on a live service model. They expect that as a live service model, there are some standards at this point, some implicit standards. There are no like formal business standards for this. Largely when something is subscription based, there is a normalization of expecting quality of life changes over time, right? And this person raised the topic of, oh yeah, WaniKani has not changed fundamentally in a very long time. That's really disappointing. And then, the counter argument was, oh, but if it wasn't for the scripts or the open source nature of modding your experience, I would not use WaniKani. Like there was so many sentiments like, oh, because of this. Now hear me out. The idea is that you have both options, right? Not that is one or the other. So if you have a quality of life change to WaniKani, you get more. You also get pushback. If you leave it as is, you still get pushback. It's a perception situation. Do you want, like, if WaniKani decides to introduce quality of life changes, you'll still get pushback because they'll probably write scripts to undo disagreeable quality of life adjustments, right? So the idea is, will the WaniKani dev pander to the minority disgruntled voice, or typically listen to community members that are dynamic and more reasonable, right? The minority voice is, I want everything, please do everything for me, right? The proactive majority would be, oh, you know what? I mean, we can mod this, so there is an option. I mean, I haven't used any scripts, right? In fact, I am the opposite for the most part. I probably do this manually myself. Like, I pick up a book, I pick up a notebook, write down the words, write down what my frequency is, I would actually disagree with that person. Since I started WaniKani a year ago, I already noticed several changes. No, there have been several changes. This person's expectation is that they should be more frequent. You see what I mean? Like, so the downside of this is there's no aspect of time for this person, which kind of sucks because you don't actually know what the time frame is. Like, does this person expect a product to be updated every month? Here's the gold standard, one of the implicit standards, not for language learning, but for video games, for live service video games, it's around 2 to 3 months. It's every quarterly that there be an update. And it can be purely cosmetic updates or not even content related. Generally, quality of life changes tend to happen yearly. We're talking about QOL changes, which are fundamental systems based things. And then there's content update, right? Which is often quarterly. And I'm using the gaming industry because the language learning section is wildly variant, largely due to the content. It's not necessarily being generated for the purpose of a lot of people's focus, which is the progression of Japanese. I actually think that given if Ko had enough time and also is paid or supplied to do this, and they like doing this, writing mnemonics and alternative mnemonics for all the content would be something that I would love, but it does not further the progress of Japanese learning. So it's diminished return for Ko as a developer. I think that's the type of content that live service models are more prone to. I'm not sure if this person buys into any other type of live service. It strikes me as when this person is disappointed in something that they're passing off as quality of life changes. Quality of life changes don't remarkably they really fundamentally change things in the grand scheme of things. This person keeps thinking that this product should be featured rich. So like hey, there are all these scripts. Why didn't WaniKani developers add all these scripts on top of WaniKani? And my thought was, because they're available already? You know what I mean? Like, you want a product that must keep their maintenance costs low, yet you want a human being to redundantly produce the scripts that the community themselves, and mind you, they also benefit from innovating on these scripts, as in people who make these scripts and whatnot have pragmatic uses for making scripts for a popular app. There's an ecosystem in line. So when someone comes around and say, why can't my product have everything, and then they can just iterate and redundantly adopt them, like, well, then you have a Roblox situation. Or maybe let's go a little bit further. You might have a Nintendo situation. I don't know if I'm being a little cheeky here with the Nintendo situation. Like, for example, emulation, right? And there is one really big, like, small but big kink in this logic that I don't think people take into account. WaniKani has a Creative Commons proposal. And that's the idea that, like scripts, you can iterate on WaniKani. You can't do that on, like, your live service games a lot of times. Like, that's their property, right? And that's their intellectual, I don't have an alternative word, but that's their intellectual property. Right? In WaniKani, that script, that availability is due to a pledge of allowing people to tweak and customize whatever. I think there is a egregious habit of taking foundational stuff for granted. Like, oh yeah, you have WaniKani, now I want more. Well, the scripts are built on WaniKani. So saying that the script is more valuable to the foundation set by the developer who wrote it, I'm not excusing that they can't, right? I'm not suggesting that they should remain complacent about adding features. I'm talking about more the attitude of that person. It sounds more like self-entitlement and privilege than it is appreciating that there are solutions that exist, and you're asking that the developer spend and devote a lot of their diminished return on adopting and making redundancies in the system so that you don't have to go and do these things, right? It's the act of providing convenience, but not a reflection of the efficacy of the product. So one really interesting example from this person is everyone uses dark mode, so why didn't they add dark mode? I use dark mode a lot. All my stuff is in dark mode. Do I have a problem that this does not have a dark mode? Well, apparently it's not a problem enough for me to install a script to put dark mode. So, that's kind of one of those things. It's a very... I'm going to make a joke here. It might be a little insensitive, but that person probably uses an Apple product. I'm kidding. That's a little... I'm going to take it back. What I'm saying is, a lot of times these days, apps and programs and tools are often expected to meet 99.99% of people's personal subjective preferences, as opposed to understanding the fundamental foundations of utility, that utility, like appreciating the utility of the tool, but not be defined by the tool itself, right? So in terms of WaniKani, due to the availability of scripts in general and script integration, that's a moot point. Yeah, the only minor I can see is that when Ani does update, it sometimes breaks scripts, and I guess if it was integrated, they would update that feature too on their end as part of the upgrade. That's fair. However, suggesting that they break scripts intentionally, largely due to updates, would be something that I find is a leap of logic. I'm not saying you are suggesting that. I'm talking about the people who are disgruntled that whenever they WaniKani updates their thing, it breaks scripts, right? I'm not a software engineer. However, oftentimes these are consequences of allowing freedom. Like, it's kind of like saying, I built a game and now you can do whatever with it. And somehow you don't expect that when I built a game, somehow I have to keep track of everything that any other person could possibly have done with my game or with my system, right? Like, so somehow the developer has become responsible for all the innovations or choices that's made by an open community. Now, it is very commendable, admirable, extra, and also incredibly wonderful when a developer can account for all of this, right? I would say up the charge, add 3 or more software engineers, and you might get a working system that can prevent something like that from happening. Possibly, or mitigating that from happening, and then having like a higher turnover. I from the reading of the forums and threads, was under the impression that there is a Ko and Viet also have like people helping them at the customer support side of things, which sounds a little bit more reassuring to me. It ends up being a bane in the defense of them, though. People attack customer supports and like technicians and whatnot that aren't the developers, for example. And that's a division of responsibility that makes it so that it's humanly possible to do these things. And yet it is coming from a source that is entirely unreasonable, emotionally charged, and also incredibly insensitive to looking at a product and not understanding that there are people behind the product or managing that product. Yeah, I purchased a lifetime subscription, so that's kind of a moot point. I would still be okay if they never update the... Yeah, me too. Largely because this product exists, and I purchased the value of the product as is. Which, mind you, Gecko, for the record, you've hit the one last topic that I had a disagreement with that person who talked about the typos. That person said at the very end, this is what I mean by self-entitlement. That person said, I paid $250 for a lifetime warranty. I expect this product to be updated for the lifetime of my ownership, right? And my thought was, okay, $250, they bought it at the end of the year because that's a discounted price, because I also spent $250. It's $350, I think, the normal price. So they bought it at a discount price. So we already know deductively that this person is someone who's very frugal, who likes to maximize their value. But also from that type of wording and whatnot, they, in my opinion, they are individuals who believe that value at the time of purchase continue to appreciate. That's not the same as buying something wholesale and accepting the value that is offered in its state. Now, lifetime subscriptions may kind of impose that as a in good faith, right? In good faith. And I totally get that, because if you watch like tech tips and whatnot, there is this air of expectation or goodwill that
oh yeah, they're going to do their best to deliver an experience for a lifetime. Now, the question is, when you experience something, it can get worse, it can get better, and it cannot change at all. The idea is when I think of lifetime subscription, this is not in agreement with other people. I actually think in the tech world, there's a normalized expectation that when you buy a lifetime subscription, you expect some sort of improvement over time due to good faith, right? However, even in those situations, like if you take your tech influencer, a lifetime subscription is the guarantee to have access to that product in the state it is, for as long as that product can be maintained active, right? So if the server collapses tomorrow, if they run out of money, that is the end of that lifetime. It is the end to the life of that software. So when you buy something on a lifetime subscription, it is not an entitlement, at least in my opinion, entitlement to any further updates outside of guaranteeing access to the state of that product. The idea that came with lifetime improvements was, in my opinion, a consequence of the live service model. The model in which you increasingly invest more money into a product, of which that product will then take more and more value of your money over time. So this person not only has a dissonance about that, they didn't necessarily, I would actually even argue, if this person has been using WaniKani for 3 years and they've been buying a month subscription, they're more entitled to expecting a logical expectation that the product improves over time. A lifetime purchase is not that, in my opinion. And from a financial standpoint, if they wanted to be objective about it, and from a subjective standpoint, it's a leap of logic. You're expecting good faith and you treat people like garbage in order to expect something in return. That is malicious. That is incredibly malicious. And ultimately, when this person claims that WaniKani's staff has stopped responding to this person, my first thought immediately was, this person keeps saying they were reasonable, they were being charitable, but the way they spoke, I can only imagine the other scenario where the person was very pedantic, they were badgering, they were harassing, and that ends up being that sounds more reasonable to the reality of the thing. And the developers continue to respond and be very professional about it, and yet there is no compliment, no apology. It's rationalization for one's own behavior. It's like, I was right, so I don't need to apologize. It's like, well, you're right about the facts, I suppose, but you're not right or righteous or morally correct for being aggressively passive aggressive, of which you accuse the offender for being, right? And that's kind of really upsetting. With all that said, that's one person, and the vast majority of the community was on a more complacent level, and I think that's really reassuring. Like, the vast majority of the replies and whatnot come from a very nurturing and understanding and empathetic situation for both sides. Like, the people were suggesting trying to relate to them, but at the same time they were making compromises, and I absolutely love that about the WaniKani thing. I've been reading the forums on a daily basis, so it's wonderful to get an idea of what the community is like, and I've been reassured this, despite reading largely and focusing largely on dissonance or discourse with the product, because I really like WaniKani. So as a natural balance, I must also be aware of all the discourse against WaniKani, right? Much like Duolingo, if most people are against Duolingo, then I find something to the contrary. I have to adapt to understanding as many sides to the product. And this one was a really big one recently, actually. I don't know if you read the forums. I do quite a lot. Enjoy spectating and observing. Once they decide to allow them, I indeed see no reason why they would be against scripts or try to break them. It's the same for those games. Sometimes mods do a lot for a game's popularity. They do. Witcher 3, right? Witcher 3, Elder and like Elder Scrolls, right? GTA, right? I'm not a big fan of myself of buying stuff based on what you expect or hope it might happen in the future. Same for early access games, for example. Yes, I buy early access games, saying take it or leave it. What game do I buy in early access recently? I bought Hades 2. When it was first announced, I bought it on day one. And have I played the game yet? No, I have not. You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for its 1.0 launch. I buy a lot of early access games based on how much I know about the developer. I'm investing in the developer. Whether they deliver or not is a consequence of my decision making. You can sure as heck wait to the finished product so that you can buy it as is, or you have faith. My lifetime subscription is faith in WaniKani's developer, right? If your faith only lasts a month, buy 1 month, right? If this person leveraged their poor decision making, in my opinion, their irrational, poor decision making, in order to validate their entitlement to certain expectations. So you're buying things on good faith, yet you're expecting people return that good faith because you're magnanimous, right? Hey, I give you money, I expect that money in return, in value. Like, well, that's not good faith. That's business. You're doing business. And when you're mixing business with this portrayal of yourself being a good person or a giving person or a philanthropic person, that is the opposite of philanthropy, right? Like, and that's also the opposite of the word investment, in my opinion. I invest in people. That means my risk is my own, right? If they were to betray your trust, though, and deliver something that ends up not being in line with your expectation, I don't really see you insulting them on forums anyway, right? Yeah, not really. It means my judgment was not great, but hear me out. I invest in people because I'm willing to lose it. Like, what I mean is, if you don't, in my opinion, if you're going to wager and buy into an expectation or promise in the future, my first question to you is also, are you willing to lose it? Otherwise, buying based on expectation is faith, right? It's weird. Here's an example: faith in yourself. I think purchasing faith in yourself is a great example of a decision making that people use maybe more frequently. For example, oh yeah, I'm going to learn Japanese every single day. Okay, so for the next 6 months. Okay, now I'm gonna buy this product for exactly 6 months because I have faith in myself that I'm going to use this product for 6 months. And then you disappoint yourself by not doing that. That is ownership of your own investment. Now the question is, do you give the similar courtesy to someone else? Right? It's a different thing if the developer promises you something and that is the price. That's fair. That's a little bit of like a moral gray area where like, oh, the developer says by month 1 this is the goal, by month 2 this is the goal, and we guarantee it. That's in poor faith, right? However, while that reflects poorly on those people, the decision is yours to trust that or not. And ultimately, your trust is for you to lose when I purchase something. So they betray your trust, then yeah, that's the end of the story. In my opinion, that's the end of the story. Now, for many others, they like to express them, right? Express their discontent and whatnot. And I actually encourage that if it's healthy for that person. Now, we wouldn't be having this discussion if that person didn't express that, and then you see how the community interacts, right, in response. And to me, I think it's a great learning lesson, right? You have people who are upset, they have things that they wanted and don't have, and then you have individuals who round that out. It's a great telling sign, and I don't think it should be absent, like you're not permitted to express your discontent. However, it doesn't change the fact that you're a butthead. If you know what I mean. Like, accept something. I think my biggest disagreement with a lot of times is not that they are correct. They are correct. The things are built on correct facts. And they are open to sharing their discontent. And that's great. The difference is expecting that you try to gaslight other people that other people should do exactly what you think. Like, you can suggest those things like, hey, you know, I would feel far more confident in our developer if when I send an email, they are very expedient in responding, and that's great. Now, the difference is, oh, they're passive-aggressive people who are lazy and don't like making their products perfect because I think if they listen to me, I can make their product perfect. That is really, I'm not even exaggerating here. It's kind of, I would say, it's a little bit disappointing that I'm actually paraphrasing how arrogant and condescending that person was. And in a way, it's very impressive that a vast majority of people who responded were very level-headed. They actually used the same diction, provided their own opinions, and then that person immediately does the thing that is characteristic, in my opinion. I was thinking maybe it would change the person's perspective, but instead they use a tone that is completely dismissive. It's like, well, oh, good for you, but I still think this is really confusing, so it's a problem, right? When someone says, oh, I don't see a problem with this, I didn't experience it, and people around me feel like this is colloquial and whatnot, and then that person is like, well, good for you, but I don't think this is a like, that's the type of tone that's like, oh, well, you're not as important as me, so let's focus on how important I am. That's a paraphrase. They said it in a very scholastic way, so this person's probably really well educated, if not a little bit emotionally unhinged. That's disappointing. Yet, I think stuff like this is incredibly healthy and it's expected, right? What I mean is discourse and these things. I would be surprised. I would be a little bit even more suspicious if there was no forum activity regarding this. It's like, is this truly and utterly 100% compliant for everyone? What you don't hear and what you don't see doesn't necessarily mean the product is perfect. And then if you only see good word of mouth and whatnot, that doesn't insist that the product is perfect as well, right? Because you don't see or hear those things. It reminds me of the Hulk Girl crypto scandal. Don't know if you heard of that one. I do have a bit of hard time empathizing with anyone who lose money there. Yeah, yep. I mean, it doesn't have to be particularly anything regarding that. It can be investments. The word scam, right? Scam is often predicated on expectations and voluntary engagement and deceptive practices of promises and whatnot. It goes pretty deep, and I find it really interesting to read about how, like, the current state of matter handles things. I really like PR, by the way, like how trying to understand developers crews. I don't know who handles WaniKani's PR. Like Tofugu, if they have a designated person who handles PR and tries to address. I do notice that on the forums there are particular individuals who work for Tofugu that crop up very frequently, so they might be community manager positions and whatnot. That said, the expected daily life of a live service product. My only wishful thinking, right? Let's try to be a little bit. Let's pull it back a little. My only wishful thinking is I hope that person finds the solution to their discontent, right? Their discontent. Apparently, the developers did, in fact, end up responding, and there was some like logistics issues, or like that's the impression I got, where the person's email was lost or something like that. And I think that there's room to grow in terms of how everyone engages in this thing, in this type of discourse. I actually think WaniKani's community is very used to this discourse, and the combination of like 16 or so users have become very empathetic while at the same time sympathetic to the developer, right? So it's wonderful. I think I'm not trying to raise emotional upheaval. I'm not entirely emotionally distraught. It is nice to talk about discourse and how discourse is represented and handled in the community. On Hanzahiro's side of things, it's entirely even smaller, and Kevin handles all of that, which it's a different dynamic. It's kind of nice to see different ways people handle things. Yeah, scandals like investment scandals happen a lot, and I'm still stuck on this, by the way. So I'm gonna take a guess on this. Not that this discussion is not worth following up. We can talk about this for hours, if not days. I play live service things, so this type of conversation happens quite a lot. And the way I go about talking about these things is not for the purpose of defending someone or rationalizing someone's passionate negativity. More for being able to have someone come to terms with what has transpired. As in, yes, it is really angering to this person, and I hope that they found their solace and their comfort in being able to express their discontent, and then also proceed to find the awareness and the perceptions necessary to avoid these things from happening in the future, or mitigate these, or make investment decisions that are different so that they can live a more consistently happier, or maybe reasonably tolerable anger management and whatnot, right? If there's anything that comes from these type of discourse, is that the party, everyone that's involved, is able to learn from that discourse. Hopefully, anyways. At least that's my thought. It's a naive thought. Just like I know whoever is hearing this now, the idea is the idea is, yeah, it doesn't happen all the time. At the end of the day, I feel somewhat sorry for these people based on what they show. I just try to give you a quick break from to see. Oh yeah, this reminds me of an episode from Big Bang Theory where Sheldon. So there's a board, right? Like I think the camera pans to either Leonard or Penny, who like walks into the scene, and Sheldon stands there, and you see Sheldon hand on the camera, and he does this thing where he looks away and looks back at something. You don't know it yet, but he like looks back. He just keeps looking back, and he was trying to get a new perspective on the board, and it turns out it's a board of like a complicated thing that I don't understand. I'm not a physicist, and you know, I don't even know if it's accurate or anything. But the idea is if you take a break and then look at it again, or look at something else and then look away, that type of thing can create like a blank so that you can re-engage. I do this with the digressions, so totally understand, because I obviously am able to choose to entertain the idea or stay focused. So did that help though? Let's find out. All the different combinations don't sound nice, is how I'm going about this. We're gonna go with what was the thing? Oh, you're just gonna use the two read, yeah, the read of Otona, yeah, okay. There wasn't a mnemonic. I was thinking about the mnemonic the whole time. I was like, I mean, you could just write Otona and then go for it. Anyways, all right, let's move on. So I'm gonna write a note to myself here. Yeah, I hope that guy continues to do, like, I want to leave it on a positive note. I hope there are a lot of people that are gonna go out of their way to help that person, or maybe someone else could console that person. I think the last thing that would be a problem is that it becomes a lose-lose situation, right? Where this person's discontent is not addressed, that discontent balloons into consistent discontent. It's bad PR for WaniKani. It creates more friction and more burden on the community at large. It's a lose-lose situation, right? And that's kind of why it's effective at demonstrating or doing open protests, right? An open protest is an ultimatum. It's one of those things that it's very efficacious. At the same time, the ultimate outcome that I like to think of is I hope it gets resolved, and it can be a win-win-win situation. I like to believe it can be a win-win situation. It's naive, and it usually doesn't happen, I would say. Realistically, it doesn't usually happen. However, it could be like a win-moot situation. Like, oh, now I'm indifferent. Like, okay, well, that's better than having discourse. At least, I think. If it's possible. Of course, again, realistically, I don't want to be a cynic at this point. Oops. We're almost at the end. This is really casual. I'm gonna talk about why I've decided to do it this way. It might be a little bit cathartic. I might change it up as I figure out how to do this in a timely fashion, right? Oops. What the heck was this mnemonic? Oh, yes. Bedtime? Alright. Oh, it's bedtime for you anyway. Unlike today, I don't have the luxury to sleep tomorrow, unfortunately. I hope you enjoy your somewhat less frantic session today. Oh, yeah. I enjoyed yesterday's. I think my voice gave out. That's usually when it becomes a bit frantic. Thanks for the. Yeah, we can pick up a. Yes, absolutely. Pick up a conversation another day. Sleep well. Good luck with work and your weekdays, right? Coming up. There is a lot of topical discussion about TikTok. So that might be an interesting thing to talk about. I'm not sure what the TikTok status is in Belgium. But that I forgot to raise that. I forgot to pick your brain about TikTok. So we'll talk about that another time. Obviously, sleep well. Excellent conversation. And obviously, you can figure out what I was going to say afterwards at another time. Yep. Oyasumi nasai, Yako-san. Okay. All right, and then we get the 8 from the turnover of the time. Oops. Oh. Uh. Yes. No. That was probably great or important. Yeah, big deal. Wear a tie. This is purple, right? Oops. Wear a tie to important things, right? That's fine. Oops. Okay, so we got a few while we're reviewing. How long did that take outside of the little conversation? About an hour. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good volume. We can probably blast through 200 in this way. So, what have I changed up, right? So we got to tweak some efficiency things. Peak day is lesson day, or promo day. I think promo day is probably the peak day. So whenever we level up, we're going to have to, let's write this down. So something that I need to change up, right? Change up. Let me grab this. I'm going to do this from, tentatively from now on, for the time being, largely because we're still testing out how to refine our process. So yesterday, right? Yesterday was peak day. Peak day, let's just call it level up day, right? Leveling, level up day, or whatever, like level up, peak day, lesson day. So lesson day, we're gonna have to set up for it, as in expect a longer session. It will be treated a little bit different. We'll have maybe more vocal, more like interactions, more engagement. So that involves reading, developing fundamentals and whatnot, because these are lesson days. So these are effectively learning days, as in learning primary days, right? So we're taking in new information. It's primary. Now, it was manageable this time because 90% or more of it is not necessarily new to me. So I have some outside knowledge that makes the exposure less. So this would even constitute as CI at this point, comprehensible input, because not most of it was new. So I was focused largely on engaging with the 10% that was not new, and there was still some. Obviously, there were the three things that part of the other 10%. Now, every following day is a review day, which is very reminiscent of my structure for Duolingo. The first day is not. The second and third day are review days, but the second day, right, which is today, is a day where I used to call it the hunt day. The hunt day. Basically, you're scavenging for weak points, or maybe even forgotten points. And in this case, WaniKani is verbatim. So it's not like Duolingo, where there's something that's not accounted for, right? In WaniKani, everything is accounted for. Like, you don't lose anything. There's no information tangentially not being able to encounter anymore. So it requires less, right? Less. However, the volume is way higher when it comes to distinctive things that you're being hit with, other than Duolingo, which the repetition has sentence structure to it. And that sentence, all the extra sentence stuff is repetition, right? It's repetition that you're not responsible for in WaniKani. So today I approached it like a hunt day. So I specifically am trying to account for all the times I pause. So when I pause, I'm going to talk about them or try to vocalize them and whatnot, and maybe even leave it up for this digression, right? So today we had a digression. Echo and I talked about it. It gives us a breather, and that's not unintentional. So when I pause on something, I'll probably say something, and then it would invite discussion, right? And that discussion can take a break from that pause, and oftentimes that can create another refocus point. It's an opportunity to digress for a little bit and then come back, right? Sometimes when I'm doing very, very long study sessions, I often talk about, oh yeah, there is a lot of pragmatism too. If you have to cram for 6 hours, do not forget your, try to integrate 15-minute breaks or 5-minute breaks. When you see your attention waning or you're getting stuck on something, a 5-minute walk away, grab a snack, grab a drink, brainstorm about something else, and come back, that can make up for the 5 to 15 minutes investment. Now, how do I imitate that while sharing on streaming, right? Engage in a conversation that is semi-related, and then you can kind of relate it back. So that's kind of what I do most of the time. And that leads to that 5-hour, 6-hour WaniKani session, 14 hours of Duolingo. The idea is I'm not actually doing them consecutively. I'm doing them with partitions of activity or different manner in order to pair it up with taking breaks. Now, you can take literal breaks, like walk away from the camera or that kind of thing. So that is what we kind of am going to do now for review days. So as opposed to trying to vocalize everything and reinforce everything, we gotta be a little bit more efficient, right? Efficient in the sense of where our focus or where my focus is going to be. So my focus on day 2 is going to be where I pause. So I didn't do it like yesterday, which was lesson day, where I spent most of the time saying, oh yeah, originally I thought maybe I'll say the keywords. I'll vocalize keywords while doing the prompt, and then I'll speak the reads while entering the reads. And that's kind of a difficult challenge without normalization. So I haven't normalized this yet. Maybe in the future I can both vocalize and type at the same time, and that would be interesting to entertain. For now, for today, I basically probably cut my time in my review by 50% by specifically thinking of the image, vocalizing the image in my head, and then entering the prompt. And I was being a lot more looser and quicker, which introduces higher rate of error. So I obviously made more error than I have when I was slowly deliberating through all my reviews. Now, there are trade-offs. What this does help me with is then I can focus on vocalizing and talking about the stuff that I get stuck on, which then allows me to troubleshoot the weakest spots. And it's often about hitting down the most frequently error-prone areas, which, thanks to WaniKani, there's a record of that, which is nice for review. For lessons, it's not accounted for, actually. So I made a couple errors in lessons, which doesn't end up in recent mistakes, at least in my opinion. I'm pretty sure I made a mistake where it didn't show up. And I kind of like that, because in lessons, you're expecting mistakes. There are discovery process and deductive learning, even at this very basic level. If one doesn't normalize this, when you go to like sentences and stories and reading comprehension, those things are going to hit even more than usual, right? So because you have a long time investment, you have an obligated larger time investment in order to get feedback from it. So this stuff is pretty instant. So what I'm going to do now for day 3 And instead of a 3-day cycle, WaniKani has on average a 4-day, I'm going to say it's usually a 5-day cycle, because day 1 is the lesson day. And then you have 4 review days, right? 4 review days. So it effectively, I'm using those 4 review days as a way to hunt. We're going to hunt for weak spots. So they'll be fast, quick, and regardless if it stacks up to like 500 reviews or 600, I think this approach is scalable within the hour to 2 hours. It's what makes, it's leveraging SRS. SRS is pretty heckin' amazing in the sense that you're cramming very rapidly. And that's something that I feel is fantastic for what it is. So reducing the amount of time to trust the system is what I'm going to do. Duolingo is a whole different story, right? The outcome, and since it's static, the outcome is very heavily dependent on the user. The user, how you extract information and whatnot. It doesn't actually hold your hand, which, interestingly enough, that is a conclusion that I feel other people might not immediately think. I'm talking about holding your hand in terms of what do you do with the information? Like, why is this important? What is the context of this? You have to provide all of that. And WaniKani is designed in a way like you're not concerned with the context. You're expected not to be concerned with the context. You're learning these things, right? That's expectations and routine. And now there's one concern that I must add for myself. Where then do I get the writing practice? I got to figure that out. I think writing practice can be integrated somewhere. In terms of speech and audio, like using my voice, I'm going to do at the end of the day, which is where we're going into our last step, which I'm very, very satisfied with right now. And that's going over specifically the level we're on and the group we're responsible for. And then account for any errors in vocabulary. And that's going to be a way for me to practice some writing of characters and a little bit more intimate view of the characters. So unfortunately, this is a method that doesn't work for people who might have selective degrees of aphantasia. However, for myself, this might be sufficient to keep my writing intact, if not a little under practice, like literal under practice. At least I can take my time and look at all the characters without the bounds of looking at an interface going forward and having to think about and typing and stuff. So I get a chance by this organization. So it's taking advantage of this, right? Obviously, there are scripts that allow you to probably move the interface around. We'll entertain that when we get to a more advanced thing, but I don't see a deficiency here, largely for the typing side of things. With that said, if I'm going to continue using WaniKani and Duolingo, Duolingo is providing all the writing. So once I liberate some time and iron out the schedule, the vast majority of my writing comes from Duolingo, largely because Duolingo has like a type of schedule. Like my routine with it is more prone to writing sentences or connecting logic. In this case, there's not that, right? These are individual characters. There's no way to flow them. You can kind of try to categorize them, right? And their categorization is based on radicals. So the way this approach is I reinforce my radicals, and I look at the kanji again, and then we continue to move on and see how we can develop this. So there's no room for writing at the moment. And for vocalization, I'm basically doing it now. So it'll be quick. You go through, test your visual reading skills, your memory, the mnemonics, and then finalize it in the review by vocally saying this stuff. right? Because you don't have to type anything when you're reviewing this. Now, I don't know how this is going to end up when we get to reviewing previous levels. So I don't know how far out it is. I basically am going to trust the SRS system to reintroduce these things. So the way I'm doing it now is to focus primarily on etching and getting short-term memory recalls of the current things, the current new things. And as we're rotating, I'm going to trust the SRS system to reinforce and see what happens. This is an extra thing that I'm doing. I think it would be echoing what we were talking about expectations and features and quality of life. I imagine there might be a script for that. That's perfectly all right. If someone comes up and say, oh, well, you can automatically do that with this script. And I was like, okay, that's great. I mean, how's that different from me doing it manually? Not that much. Maybe you can save some time, but it's the act of doing it that is very important. So I like to do something that I'm actively doing on top of trying to trust WaniKani or something automatic, right? There is value to doing these type of things, at least in my opinion. So maybe this is more of an impasse with other people, right? Time is very valuable. I agree. And I've discovered that time this way causes my consistency to go up a lot more than finding as many convenient tools as possible to alleviate every single convenient thing that you may want, right? In fact, sometimes I deliberately do watch anime and manga without a dictionary aid or a translation aid or a transcribable aid. There's times and places you mix and match, right? There are wonderful ways of engaging yourself. Highly focus on convenience and lowering the boundaries of effort can be a bane in itself. It's a very touchy double-edged thing. The more convenient a tool is, the less and less work you're doing, right? And ultimately, the more and more consistent you have to become, in my opinion. So like for someone that says, oh yeah, this tool will do all these things for you. But the big but is now you have to do enough of it. So regardless of how you go, in my opinion, go about it, the ultimate summation is the summation of your active participation in doing those things. Because you're not going to run around and walk around with a live transcribable thing. You can choose to do that. Then your goal is different. If your goal is to recall everything without the aid of technology, using technology, you have to, progressively become unaided, right? The alternative is use the technology for its convenience, know what it's doing for you, and see if you can do it without it at some way down the line, right? Transcribable tools and SRS they are there to aid you in ultimately achieving a goal of being unaided communication. Or you can embrace technology and go around with a universal translator or something like that. That's also a potential goal. The idea is my goal is a little bit of a mixed bag. So I'm not necessarily using the best tools. I might not necessarily be using the most time efficient approaches. However, I also don't need to learn Japanese. Some people might argue they need to learn Japanese. I don't. I'm choosing to, and it's an exercise in intellectual enrichment, right? So I want to make it clear, the stuff that I'm doing is not specifically I'm saying these things are what makes me really good at learning or increases my consistency. I really do not want to give people that impression. These are ways in which you can engage with WaniKani that other people might do the same. I don't know. I haven't actually watched someone use WaniKani, much like a video that someone linked in Discord. talked about they haven't seen anyone that use like link Q, and yeah, because this stuff is it's ironic because that video basically cut out the thing that makes it why the video like that is the reason why there aren't a lot of exposure for language learning apps, because people use language learning apps that are for their face value. It's self-explanatory. What does a WaniKani experience look like between WaniKani users? Well, if you're under the logic that a tool is supposed to do as advertised, then there's less and less incentive to use WaniKani differently. Meanwhile, the people who are making those videos, who feel like they're stumble upon something profound, they often are using techniques that are not present in the tool, or finding ways to emulate and or iterate on that experience. So maximizing the tool, but going beyond the tool. So that's my little spiel, a slight digression on why I'm doing this. It's an exercise on trying to integrate things I've learned elsewhere, things I've pulled from my time with Duolingo, mix and match. You can, in my opinion, do all of these things, right? It's a practice and exercise of doing things that are not there and doing things that are there. I think to tie this back to that digression with Gecko, expectations are only as big as your perspective on things. So if your perspective is that WaniKani is supposed to teach you all the kanji, that is as far as WaniKani will ever go, because that's what you expect and that's all you want, right? It can hit below that though, so it's an upper limit. I don't expect WaniKani to teach me how to write, so I'm going to find another way to write while using WaniKani. That's the idea, right? If you don't like something and it doesn't exist right now, you can most certainly go and write a thread or forum and complain about it and ask or request that. In the meantime, you have hands, you can write, you have other tools that can write. So in the meantime, while you exercise patience, due diligence, and maybe a response like, we're not interested in that, sorry, you find another tool to compensate for that skill you don't want to do, or you do it yourself. So for me, that's the act of scripting. The nice thing about WaniKani, which Gecko brought up, is scripting. If it doesn't do it, you can do it if you want, right? I think ultimately that allows one to be constructive and critical about other people's work, but at the same time, while they are being constructive and critical and you have to wait on things you can't control, you yourself, if it is indeed in fact constructive or critical, you can work a solution as well. That practices two different facets of learning: how to learn and adapt and self-evaluate your learning on your own, and how to become reliant, independent, and trusting on other people's expertise, right? These are not entirely overlapping concepts. They are actually, the vast majority of it involves exclusive type of thinking. Being creative, I'm not surprised, in my opinion, that the vast majority of people, when I talk about things that are strictly creative, their response is, I'm not creative. Largely not this, and I would rebuttal a lot of times, like, you're probably creative. The difference, in my opinion, is that if you're healthy, right, provided you're healthy and have no mental dispositions or physical limitations, the idea is creativity is practiced. It's not necessarily born or inherent. So if you spend most of your time thinking objectively all the time, which the internet does really, really wonderfully, evaluate all your things based on numbers goes up, etc., then yeah, it doesn't leave a lot of room for imagination. You're completely relying on the fact that when you buy something, it only offers that much and or less. It can't do more, right? When I see WaniKani, I see an opportunity to do far more than what WaniKani has to offer. I stream WaniKani. But I don't only stream WaniKani by using only WaniKani. I use what I have to offer, use my own stories, how it integrates my importance. Where does WaniKani sit? How can I use it as an instructional material, as an anecdotal material for other things? So WaniKani has done far more than what it is designed to do, not necessarily because the developer has foresight of it. So there is a little bit more rounded. I didn't quite get to that point when I was talking to Gecko today. However, I like to emphasize that you, right, you as the investor, certainly will buy into certain products and be made certain promises and have certain expectations. However, limiting yourself to those expectations and the product's promises is a choice that you make, right? Oh, there. Oh, yeah, I heard. Churn linked. TikTok is back again. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a laughing matter or not, but yeah, TikTok's back. So you can rest assured people have their fix and whatnot. It is going to be an extension probably, but not a like a peel of the policy. I'm not sure if it's funny. It's kind of expected for the next 90 days. I'm gonna stream soon. Let's see your turn. So what are you up to, Diao? Alright, so let me do my review here, and then we're gonna go over our mistakes from our review, and then we're gonna move to Hansi Hero. I gotta do a lot of clam chowder. New England clam chowder. My folks are really into this, and I grew up kind of eating this too. Do you have clam chowder where you are? It's a very Western thing, so I'm not sure. At least I'm not aware of Eastern clam chowder. The whole cream thing. Alright, so let's do... So we're doing English. This is mnemonics, right? So this is mnemonics only for our current basis of radicals. So let's do this. Spoon, winter, dry, canopy, fingers, window, heart, direction, stool, fur, father, old, roof, roof, task, arrow, door, poop, owl, life, now, hat, triceratops, ice, and stone. That's it for that one. It's a Western thing. Chowder is a Western thing. Not exclusively American, but it's incredibly popularized by Americans. However, I'm not sure if it ever made it east. Chowder is a very it's a thing that lots of Asians like, though, who have traveled to, I guess, the United States for a place. You can probably find a lot more if you're watching YouTube and stuff and watching people try chowder, but I'm not sure if chowder is like served regularly in like Eastern countries. We're done with our lessons. No. There's no character down here. We're already done with our lessons today. Or our reviews today. Today's a review day. We don't have any more lessons. We did all our lessons yesterday. Or most of our lessons until these are unlocked. So there's gonna be another 3 days of review before anything unlocks. Let's see. So let's do kanji. We're doing reads for kanji. This is radicals. These are radicals. The kanji's down here, which they're not unlocked. There's no kanji. Like that's why I wrote mnemonics only. Radicals only have mnemonics. They don't have reads. Because they don't actually read that way. And then kanjis have reads. And then vocabulary have reads. Okay, so for our kanji, we're gonna start with the reads that we learned for here. So, man, nai, nai, bun, setsu, setsu, tai, sho, hi, hi, ushi. Well, no, gyu, 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 guy, guy. Did I take a guess on this? No. Guy. Oh, wait, that's not guy. You. She. She. We'll pause on this. Guy. Die. Did you have any take about, the crypto? No, I don't. Beware. Clam chowder in bread bowls? Yeah. Clam chowder is usually served with some sort of starch. It could be stale bread or crackers, something crispy, and usually is served with a side of bread, some sort of starch. Looks like mushroom soup texture. It's pretty close to cream of mushroom soup. I'm saying soup. Cream of mushroom is another Western soup that is can appear and have the same texture. Yes, as clam chowder. Okay, so then we go through and do oh, okay. Oh. Yes. And then popular Western food here are mushroom soup. Oh, and garlic bread. Okay. Steak, chicken, lamb, pork chop, spaghetti. Oh, okay. And you don't have to say more about the steak, chicken, lamb, pork chop. I can imagine what the Western version would be like. My family don't go out of their way to eat like much mushroom soup or like westernized like prep, like meat prep, as far as I am reflecting on it. However, here's something interesting. During celebrations we do, though, because Americans traditionally celebrate with treats like having steak, lamb, lobster, right? Lobster, that type of thing. And in functions and stuff, we kind of adapted to that. So sometimes steaks would be made for holiday celebrations. For example. Oh, I could use some garlic bread though. Okay, so I made a few mistakes. Let's go look at them. Can I see the mistakes? Well, nope. It's so far up there. Alright. So we have Kore. So Kore was due to translation. Kore. Hinode. Hinode. The he was missing. Hinode. Guy, because I didn't read last time, and I clearly didn't remember it this time. Bidama. I missed the rendaku. I confused correct with stop. Shi. Life with arrow. And Taishita. Okina. Okina with Taishita. So let's write those down. So I don't remember, Jal. Do you use TikTok? And the whole crypto thing, like it's a crypto. Get invested or do at your own risk, right? Wait, you don't know this one? Oh, that's probably because it's a kanji. There's a kanji missing on Bidama. Maybe you're used to seeing the kanji. Kore. So kore, I need to remember this, and they use the generative one in English. So this one. And so hinote. Missing the he. So he, correction error. We got guy. What what did I write instead? I don't actually know what I wrote instead. So the whole phrase. And then Bidama. Bidama. Rendaku. Gotta be careful about rendaku. Dama. Right. So da. Okay. She. Not tada. Whoa, what did I actually write? Did I actually write tada? I don't even know if I wrote tada. That's fine. She's fine. And we missed life. Right? Life. You don't? I see. I don't know what sunrise and marble in Japanese was. Oh, intriguing. I didn't either, actually. Yeah, neither did I. They're new to me. So, 大した。So, 大した right. Important. It was a translation error. You follow things to see how U.S. government deals with TikTok or any Chinese app. You wrote this Chinese app, so any Chinese app. That was the mnemonic, by the way. For this. You think of oh wait. Was that the mnemonic? I think they might have used bees as the mnemonic for this. I think of it as a bead. This. A bead. A bead marble. Or a bead ball, which can be a marble. A bead happens to be also this, but it's particularly small and it can be glossy and it can look like a marble. However, I think let's look at their mnemonic. I don't remember what their mnemonic was. I think it had something to do with bees. Oh no, it's glass. It's from oh yeah, that's Hanzahiro. For this, it's marbles came to Japan from Portugal. So B is short for vitro, which means glass. So glass ball, vitro. So B, right? It's actually closer to V when you say vitro, right? Not vitro, right? It's basically vitro. So that's good. I totally forgot about that cultural thing. So Portuguese. Portuguese. I usually just think a bead. A bead can be a marble in English. Anyways, yeah, we're done with WaniKani today. I need to continue staying vigilant. We changed up our Hanzahiro workload as well, but I have a lot of workload to do. I only have 2 days left before I start reviewing. And tomorrow is sort of a full day because it's the last like Neverwinter stream as well. So my review time is getting very, very slim. I'm not sure if I'm going to reach the quota of 34 constructs. We'll see. All right. Well, anyways, there you have it. Not too bad. How many did we do? About like 100 plus? Yeah. With SRS, it's gonna go really, really quickly. It's one of those things. You can adapt how fast you want to go with it. It's very scalable. We'll see if we reach an upper limit. We have not reached an upper limit, it seems, at least in terms of reviewing. Now, in terms of lessons, we might have reached an upper limit, unless I approach the lessons a little bit differently. I kind of sped up the pace halfway through when it was past midnight yesterday. We'll see. It is cutting corners a little bit, largely due to the nature that 90% of the stuff I have existing mnemonics and existing things, so we'll see how this changes in the future when more and more stuff are unfamiliar, right? There are, so I say, 8 or 9 things that are unfamiliar in the last batch of lessons. So more on that next time. Thanks for hanging out. Of course, I do enjoy my daily chit chat with Gecko. It's probably going to become like a regular thing or something. It really gives me an opportunity to bring up stories that I bring that's related to WaniKani or inspired by the WaniKani community. And we'll continue to try putting that in somewhere in the middle. You know, get started, do a little review. Review days are where the chit chat happens, I think. We're probably going to have to keep it to the minimum on lesson days. Unless I decide, all right, let's cut the lessons in half. Because yesterday was what? Like 200 things? Something like that. But half of them were lessons as opposed to review. Review is comprehensible input. If you know some, you know enough, or like you're practicing. Practicing is very comforting, right? It's for comfort. So when you're trying to burn things, that's comfort. I think practicing helps for retention. The things that I focus on most of the time is for exposure. So learning. So practicing gets a lot less attention from me. Quite a lot. Unless it deals with active recall, which is the final stage of testing practice. More on that later. Right. Alright. That's a wrap. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. Right. And until then, for the language enthusiast, you know, Japanese enthusiasts out there and maybe WaniKani interest only, mata ne, ja ne. And I'm gonna get up, walk around, stretch a little bit, hydrate a little bit, and I'll be back for Hanzo Hero. Thank you.